Well, welcome everybody to this special session of the Thriving Farmer Flower Summit. So glad that you are joining us. I know that it is, if you're on the West Coast, it is quite early in the morning, but it's one of those things. The global summit is you never quite know, where people are going to be tuning in from. So again, glad you're joining us. Today we have the wonderful Roz Chandler from Fieldgate Flowers from the UK, and she is 30 years of experience in marketing and 10 in flower farming. She's the owner of Fieldgate Flowers in the UK and the host of the Cut Flower podcast. In the midst of lockdowns, Roz and her team successfully transitioned Fieldgate Flowers from a model based 90% on weddings to more of a thriving online business with courses for growers of all experience levels. She continues to champion the cause of sustainable British grown blooms, teaching consumers to grow their own, flower farmers be more profitable, and the Narn gardener to grow flowers with ease. Welcome to the special session.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know that you've had, I think you had a knee replacement. So,
I have.
It's been challenging with all the schedules. Let's do a live session. It'll be a lot of fun and it won't be like a lot of back work, so it's just more of us chatting. So again, I really appreciate you taking the time and making it happen.
Yeah, no problem.
So we've got Kelly joining us from New Jersey, Springville Hill Flower Farm. Welcome, Kelly. And yeah, if you are joining us, just put where you're coming from in the comments. Give us the weather temp right there. 2 days ago, it was 7 degrees here, Fahrenheit. So that's, I don't know what that is. It's minus something Celsius. And now it's 45 degrees outside, and it poured rain all last night. So it's weather's always crazy. Now, where you're from, you're in England, where supposedly they tell me the winters are just gloomy and
wet. Grey, and wet. Yeah, I mean, climate change has happened for sure.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a child, it was much snowier, but we don't really get an awful lot of snow. If snow comes now, it comes in February. We've had a really mild December. I mean, one day last week, it was something like 17 degrees centigrade. And that's like January in the UK. It's quite odd. I think the biggest challenge for flower farmers is trying to follow the weather, actually.
Yeah.
Fleece, no fleece, in the tunnel, out the tunnel. It's challenging. Yeah.
So in the wintertime, are there any flowers that you can grow without heat?
Our biggest problem in the UK, flower-wise, would be January.
Okay.
And a little bit of February. Really, you're waiting for your bulbs to come. In January, you've got your hellebores and you're basing on foliage.
Yeah.
And without heat, you can't really grow very much else. So then you're looking for your early bulbs to come, and you might be forcing something. But the earliest you're going to get them is sort of mid-March.
Okay.
So you've got a bit of an empty period.
Yeah, unless you're doing a big heated greenhouse, but especially with
biomass.
Without your cloudiness, you'd almost have to add light too, just to get everything to look decent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just really challenging there. We've got Nicole and Rebecca and Karen. We got people in Worcester, Ohio, which is actually only a couple hours from me. We get Texas, Ontario, Canada, California. Wow, we have an early bird from California.
Oh.
Yes.
On a Sunday.
Yes. Oklahoma. Yeah, we got folks from all over. So great to see you. So let's talk a little bit about how you got started in flowers, because you weren't always a flower farmer.
No, absolutely not. It happened completely by accident.
Mm-hmm.
Just over 10 years ago, we bought a property which was a bit run down and had a bit of land. And then we thought, well, what we're going to do with the land? We always quite like to be on our own with a bit of land.
Yeah.
So we thought, I know, we'll go on. I said, I'll go on a chicken course. And then we ended up with some chickens. And then I'll go on a pig course, and we ended up with some pigs.
Yeah.
And then I'll go on a goat course, and we'll end up with some goats. And I'm a one for that, just learning it and just doing it.
Yes.
And then I thought, flowers. I'm not from a horticultural background. I don't know anything about flowers. And I definitely wasn't a gardener. And I thought, okay, I'll go on a course, a one-day course, and I'll learn everything there is to do about cut flowers. And then I got 3 raised beds. They were tiny, 3 meters by 1 meter. Yeah. And I just played for a few years, really. And then I thought, I quite enjoy this. I can sort of do part-time flower farming. And I suppose I was transitioning out of a full-time role. And that's really where it happened. And then we started doing weddings, but it still wasn't full time. And then the business grew and grew and grew to where it is today.
Yeah.
So it was a complete accident and was never planned or formed and it's just grown massively in the last couple of years.
Yeah. And I think the important thing that you said there is at first you just kind of played around with it, made sure it was right for you. Because I think the worst thing you can do is come to this summit and then be like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be a flower farmer, and then go spend all this money and quit your job. Because I don't want anyone to do that, because I don't want to be responsible for in 6 months to say, Michael, you ruined my life. So
transitioning is the only way, honestly, unless you can afford it. What lots of people do is go into part-time roles, or they'll drop. So I always say to people, if you work 5 days a week, how much do you earn? And they say, I earn X. And I say, okay, well, if you're going to drop 1 day a week to become a flower farmer and do 4, how much does flower farming need to make you in order to make that income? And then transition really slowly. And it might take 2 to 5 years. Because by the time you start growing all the foliage, and by the time you put all your investment in polytunnels, and it is big, heavy investment in the beginning.
Yes.
That actually you're not going to make any money. It isn't a job that you can leave your job on Friday and start making money from flower farming on Monday. It kind of isn't. And I think that's why I think flower farmers struggle in the early years.
Yeah. Yeah. Because also too, if you said polytunnels, you've got walk-in coolers, you've got all the perennials, if you put in peonies and, willows, echinaceas, all those different things are going to cost you money. And again, they start to build and you get your flywheel going at year 3, year 4. But I think what you said, 2 to 5 years or 3 to 5 years is spot on with what we see for all these other farming, niches. But it's just saying, you just got to kind of figure that out and build it. So
I think you've got to know that's the situation and build it. Yeah, exactly. And know the investment is quite heavy. And know you build it into your life. I suppose it's part of your sort of life plan, isn't it? And I think, been going nearly 11 years, and built up a really good following, a really good base now, and obviously doing online stuff too. We can actually see a serious return now, but it's taken 11 years. That's quite a long time.
Yeah, decade. We're getting some comments here in the, Amy says she's been going for 8. Janice said 10 years part-time, starting year 4 full-time. So kind of taking that time to, make it happen. Let's talk a little bit about the kinds of flowers. Obviously, let's kind of push the pandemic aside. Before that happened, where were your sales channels?
Our sales channels before COVID were weddings.
Okay.
Predominantly weddings, some funerals, but we weren't a big funeral supplier at that point. We became one, unfortunately, but we weren't at that point.
Yeah.
We were mainly weddings, and we did local bouquet deliveries and a little bit of DIY buckets. But I would say that 70% of our income came from weddings.
Okay. So let's talk about, the bride. What's the time frame for if you want to get into wedding flowers? When do you have to start talking to people to make sure you get the kind of pipeline going? Because weddings can be 1 to 2, 3 years out.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, the minimum we do is 6 months, really, in reality.
Yep.
So we'll pick up weddings now in 2022 for later in the season. So like August and September.
Yeah.
But everything from January to June has already been booked. So you're normally about 12 months out. An average is 12 months. A long way out would be 18 months. And the shortest would be 6 months.
Okay.
The bigger the wedding, the more time you get.
Yeah. And then is there a percentage that people say they're going to typically spend on wedding flowers of the whole budget?
No, you can kind of work it out. I mean, we're predominantly a marquee wedding specialist, and that's where we pitch ourselves. And we did it deliberately because it's more profitable. Yeah. Because if you get married in a marquee, then you have to get married somewhere else, like a church. So in actual fact, you've got a double whammy. You've got a church and a marquee. If you go to a venue and you get married in a venue, you've only got one whammy. So therefore, people can move the flowers around between them and so on. So we absolutely pitched ourselves as a marquee wedding specialist. And also with a marquee comes lots of floral arrangements. They've got big ceiling arrangements, big installations.
Yes.
Tends to be on their parents' farm or on their land that they've got. So it tends to be a higher end wedding. Yeah. At a lower end where budget is an issue, it's really difficult to make money in weddings.
Yeah.
And I would always pitch. The only way you make money at weddings at a lower end is if you do lots and lots of volume and they come and collect them from you and you don't install anything and you really watch your man hours and you're basically doing lots of volume. At the other end, high end, you're doing real on full service. You've got a whole team. You're installing it all. It's taking days. You know, you're building foliage ceilings, for instance, which could take 3 days. You know, we've got a wedding in April, which is £28,000 in flowers. So wow.
Yeah.
Because it's the whole, they want a whole foliage across the whole marquee. They want it to look like it's outdoors. They want lighting that rigs the whole thing. So it's a big thing. But at that end, you've got big teams, big supplies, everything's. But honestly, having done weddings for 11 years, that's where the money is.
Yeah. Okay. So someone's asking, she says, I'm not very English. Explain marquee.
A marquee is a tent, a big tent, like a canvas structure that has become really sophisticated now.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's what they are. They're big outdoor structures.
Yeah. And that's typically, as you said, on the parents' farm or something like that. So, and then they go, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you know, and then with that too, I mean, obviously the bigger these weddings are, well, I mean, they're probably higher stress just because of all that's involved. But if you feed on stress, then I guess.
Yeah, they're definitely more stressful. Definitely, you know, more meetings, more budget, it's more exact.
Yeah.
We tend to find professionals from London, you know, and they might be getting married in the suburbs or on a farm where they grew up, for instance. So lots and lots of Zoom calls, lots of contact. But that's okay because they have the budget for it. If you don't and you're still doing all that work, that's where the time goes.
Gotcha. Yeah. You have to be very careful about that.
Yeah.
Now, with that too, are you, I'm just trying to think through. Do you have like a binder for every single wedding that basically has every single little step laid out so that basically you're just following a big checklist?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. We have a wedding process and we use a CRM system just for weddings. We don't use it for the rest of our business. So we basically put our quote together in the CRM system. They accept it. They accept the contract and terms and conditions. They pay their deposit. They have an online portal to put everything in there, all their Pinterest boards and all their videos.
Oh, wow.
What you really organize, what you want to resist is them sending you hundreds of emails throughout an 18-month period of going, oh, no, I haven't got 4 bridesmaids. I've got 3. Oh, I know I said I wanted yellow, but can I have red? Oh, and I know, and by the way, can I have another buttonhole? It's a disaster waiting to happen because what you've got is all these little emails and all this stuff and all the time you take to go back and have a look and see what it was that they wanted. And actually it's a nightmare. So I say to them, right, here's your contract, pay your deposit. I don't want to speak to you in the nicest possible way till 6 weeks before the wedding because nothing's going to happen. Nothing is going to happen. I don't want to speak to you that you've added a bridesmaid on the 9th month. It's irrelevant, really. So they do all that on the portal and they say, I've done this, and they can collect their photos and that's fine. And at 6 weeks before the wedding, I'll have another conversation with them and we'll confirm everything up. I'll redo the quote or whatever it happens to be. They'll pay their full balance. And then there'll be a lot more contact between then and the wedding day. But what you don't want, and it's how you educate brides, is what you don't want is continual contact for 18 months.
Yeah. You're going to get sick of each other very quickly and it's going to drive you crazy. Yeah.
It's going to drive you absolutely crazy. You're not going to make any money out of it.
Yeah.
You've got to be really firm on weddings.
I'm sure you've had your share of crazy stories.
Yes. I was going to write, crazy stories in terms of things that have happened on a wedding day. You know, the bride that turns up to church and forgot a bouquet she left at home, or you might get we've had masses where you'll turn up to a church and it's been used for something the day before and the children's toys are all the way down the aisle, and so you turn into much more than a wedding florist. You're a wedding organizer, I'd go so far as to say. You know, I've hoovered venues. I've got to churches where the weeds are growing up just as the bride's about to turn, and we're getting the weeds out the beginning of the church, or the church sign is really dirty and we'll clean it.
Wow.
Tablecloths will be creased, which drives me nuts. So I'll iron them. So at that end, you are much, much more than a wedding florist. Yeah.
Yeah. You're basically just making it because you want that event to be perfect for the bride.
Yeah.
Because that is what's going to drive your repeat business.
It actually does. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just looking, you do have Instagram because I know a lot of people,
I do.
people are saying here, how do you learn to do these arrangements, assuming they are very specialized?
Yeah, my Instagram is Phil Gate Flowers. How did I learn to do it? It's all self-taught, actually. I didn't go on any florist. That's one thing I didn't do. I didn't go on any floristry courses. It's all big installation stuff. It's all sustainable. So we're not using Oasis and we're not harming the planet. We want to be completely plastic free by 23.
Oh, wow.
So we've worked really hard at that. So yeah, and I have a team. Of course, I've got a team. If I'm doing some massive wedding, then there might be 10 or 15 of us.
Yes.
And there are lots and lots of freelancers. You're losing lots of freelance resource. I've got a big freelance resource. And florists in the UK, that's what they are. They're freelancers, a job.
Gotcha.
And you book them a year before. You get the good ones in a year before. So something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the marquee, and that's that. You said ceiling, beautiful. Arrangement.
Yeah. And that will take. There were 3, I think, in that one. Yeah. That will take 2 people all day.
Wow.
So to even install. So you're talking about maybe 3 people. Actually, I think we had on that job. So if you've got 3 people working 8 hours, that's 24 hours to do that.
Wow. Now, with is that like a wire frame, and then you just build up around it? Okay.
Yeah, it's basically a wire frame, and then you're putting chicken wire around it, and then you're putting the foliage in the chicken wire. So you're doing it sustainable, really.
Yeah, yeah. And I just dropped your Instagram handle into the chat for folks so that they can head on over and check out the greatness.
Oh, yes, please. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yeah. Yeah, I'm just scrolling back through here. All the now here's a great one. This is a really good one right here. Let's share this one in. Actually, it's a promo reel. Is this something that you guys put together?
Yes, we did.
Nice. Man, that's beautiful. And then you've got this right here, this next picture here, which is a bride with her amazing bouquet. What's the orange flowers in there?
They look to me, I can't see from here, but I think it's calendula. This bride actually delayed her wedding twice. This was then a wedding she had in London. She then subsequently had another wedding because it's an Indian wedding. She had another wedding. So actually we had 2 weddings from her. She then had an Indian wedding with 400 people. Wow. And it was amazing because we got to do the whole decoration of the whole Indian wedding. Wow. And it was so colorful. It was so bright and so colorful. And it was the whole, amazing.
Because Indian weddings are just something else. I mean, there's like, I've seen some of the, some videos of them. It's just amazing, just the amount of floral they use in them. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose for us, it depends. We tend to attract people where flowers are really important. So they're either important to the mother of the bride.
Yes.
And flowers are really important to her, or they're important to the bride. Because it's a big part, really, if you think about table centers and installations and the whole lot. Yeah. Yeah. Our style is kind of quite, you can see there, our style is quite natural, sort of free flowing.
Yes. Yeah. And that's that's white. I mean, she went
white and green.
Yeah.
It's on trend in the UK. White and green. I would say that 90% of our weddings last year were white and green.
Okay, so then let's talk about that because obviously you have to plan the palette around what people are doing. So now that it's white and green, what are your go-to flowers?
Yeah, right. So you plan a year, obviously more than a year in advance. So we will grow mainly everything in whites. We'll go whites and creams, and we'll go sways of pastels and pinks. Yeah, that's our kind of color palette. Now, obviously there's some bright weddings, but bright weddings might only be 3 a year. Most of it is whites, so it'll be your delphinium, it'll be your larkspur, it will be your David Austin white patience roses, it will be all of your annuals you'll be growing in whites. You might be doing your green as amaranthus, your cornflowers will be in white and pinks. Your everything you choose to grow tends to be in that palette. because even if you're doing bouquets for something else or DIY buckets for someone else, you can include whites and pinks and so on. So we definitely grow, whatever I'm choosing, I'm going, right, okay, let's choose that in whites. Let's choose that in greens.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm assuming then eucalyptus as well, because that's a nice green.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only problem with eucalyptus in the UK, the only problem is that really you should be picking it between September and March.
Oh.
And most of your weddings are in the summer. So you either have to make a choice to sacrifice it, which is what we do, really. Or you have to have a later wedding. But yeah, we grow huge amounts of foliage, huge amounts.
Yeah.
And I always say to any flower farmer, you'll never, ever have enough foliage. Always do more foliage than everything you're going to need.
I actually just ordered some, I was seeking the company out because of the strawberry seeds they had. They had these pink flowered strawberries. But then I was obviously trying to hit my minimum for free shipping or something like that. So I saw they had eucalyptus and some really cool types. So I ended up with that. So I'm hoping to get those seeds here in a couple of weeks, because I just know there's such a big shortage on eucalyptus right now. So yeah.
There's a really good book called, I think it's called it's written by a real eucalyptus guru. And I think it's called The Hardy Eucalyptus or something. I'll have to find it, let you know what the book is called. It's written by Hillary Collins, I think her name is.
Okay.
Yeah, it's written by Hillary Collins, and it's something like the Hardy Eucalyptus book. And she is like the guru of eucalyptus. It's like what she would tell you what to grow where and what if you want full sun or shade or what you're using it for and how you pollard it and how you coppice it, and just a genius. So it's a good book if you look on Amazon for something like Hillary Collins. Good book.
Now, another book that you mentioned to me, I think, was Gilding the Lily.
Yes.
And that's about I think you may have said this or not, the tragedies of the global floral system.
Yeah.
Of just how messed up it is and how exploitative it is for so many different countries.
Yeah, it is. It's written by an American who's based in New York, Amy Stewart, and it's called Gilding the Lily. I think it's called other things as well, but one of its titles is Gilding the Lily, and you can find it too.
Yeah.
And it is about the global cut flower industry, and yes, exactly how messed up it is, and how, in the UK, for instance, all of our, 90% of the flowers that come into the UK are imported, which is pretty major. That's it. Gilding the Lily is brilliant. Yeah. Really, really good book to read.
Yeah. So I'll go ahead and drop that into the chat for folks if they want to, grab that.
Yeah. So it's a big issue. I mean, all of our roses come from Kenya, Ethiopia, and Colombia. Most people think in the UK, our flowers come from Amsterdam, but Holland is just a wholesaler for Europe. It's not where they're grown. It's the wholesaler.
That's what Dave was saying. He was saying, he was talking about the roses and how they're all coming from, and just the amount of fertilizer and just how the spraying that's happening with them to keep them clean, just how much harmful chemicals it is. Yeah. And how it's poisoning those areas. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a study done, if people are really interested, there was a study done on that and about florists working with flowers that have been brought in and the carcinogenic chemicals that were used and the florists breathing it in. And so there's quite a lot of research around those chemicals and how dangerous they are. So, I mean, a flower that comes in from Africa has been sort of frozen almost and fertilized, and it's within an inch of its life. It's like this, it's kind of quite stiff, but it lasts a long time because of that. And you can get roses, therefore, in the UK on Valentine's Day, which is February the 14th. And we can't, people are attuned to buying roses on Valentine's Day. So unless we change the education of actually you can have something else, then we've still got the same problem.
Yes. Yeah. And the problem is the education isn't happening fast enough. But again, you are one of those who are educating. Talk to us a little bit about your podcast.
Yeah. I've got 2 podcasts because I'm greedy. But you can find them on Amazon, actually. I just saw them today on Amazon, but you can also find them on Apple and so on. But I run 2 podcasts. And one is the Cut Flower podcast. And it's really about, in fact, I've got to do one today. And I'll do different subjects. So today will be, the 7 things you can do in your garden in January. It's not, you don't ever stop gardening, if you like. It might do something on peonies, there might be something on mulching and composting and so on. So I enjoy it. I really enjoy it. I have some guests over as well. And and the other one is actually aimed at flower farmers, and is more about the marketing side and branding and so on. And it's worth having a look at too. So I've got 2 podcasts because I'm greedy.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. Again, it's more great information coming out. But, I think Michael said, actually, no, Julie is the one that said, education is important, but sadly, many consumers simply do not care. And there's not, we can do our best, but there are going to be those consumer bridezillas who literally just want the cheapest, quickest.
That's right. And you have to say, to them, and we do, and you have to be quite strong. And it's quite hard in the early days when you're just setting up, when you need to make the money. And, we can do it now. I'm not saying we could always do it, but we stand quite strong. And I know when the inquiry comes in, whether they're right for us. I know how painful that inquiry is going to be, and we say every year there's always one that slips in that we shouldn't have taken. And we knew on day one we shouldn't have taken it, because we know they're asking for things that doesn't match our, we don't grow that, or we haven't got that, and they're not really got it. And so they're not right for us. And we should actually say, sorry, you're not right for us. Why don't you go and do ABC? It's just easier, but it's hard. I'm not saying it's easy to do that.
Yeah. But you have to know your boundaries, and because again, you got to protect yourself and your team.
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about the name of your flower farm, Fieldgate Flowers. How did you pick that name?
My children laugh about this because I don't know how it can. Obviously, you've got to find a name for a farm that you can have a domain name from, which is always really hard now. And you can have a website, which is true. I think it came from sort of looking out the window and going, there's a field, there's a gate, and then we're going to do some flowers. And it seemed sort of quite rural, and it seemed kind of quite nice. So it became Fieldgate Flowers. But, there are stories. My children have stories of my greatest character that I love is Winnie the Pooh.
Okay.
And I'm a Winnie the Pooh fan, just absolutely categorically Winnie the Pooh fan. And the latest film, if anyone's watched it, he's got little Winnie the Pooh on a train. And he's with Christopher Robin, a grown-up Christopher Robin. And Winnie the Pooh's looking out the window and he's going, gate, field, cow, pig. And Christopher Robin's going, look, Winnie, can't you just be a bit quieter? I'm trying to do some work. And he looks out again and he goes, field, cow. And my children said that's exactly how I named my company. I looked out the window and went, field, gate. So it's kind of like that's how it happened, really.
Yes.
I'd like to say it was a lot more sophisticated than that, but it wasn't.
Yeah. Kelly in the comments saying, oh, bother.
Exactly. Yes. I am an absolute Winnie Pooh fan.
Laura says ours is Fence Post Flower Farm. Pretty close.
Yeah.
Yes. And then Julie says it's pick your lane. It's okay to say no. Yeah. I think you ever really need to have that lane, stick with it. All right. So funeral flowers, because that's something that, I think you list on your website, talk about this bespoke nature of it.
Yeah. I love it.
That is something that's obviously incredibly quick turnaround.
Yeah.
Typically, it's probably a week, less than a week. What's the process like with that?
It's really good. And, a horrible thing to say, but in COVID, what happened to us in COVID was we became renowned for funeral flowers. Yeah. And the reason was in the early days of COVID, the flowers weren't coming in from overseas. So no one could get any anyway. Yeah. We had a monopoly. We definitely had a monopoly because there aren't many growers near us. So we spoke to all the local funeral firms and said, look, if someone's looking for flowers, we can do them. And so we became this sort of go-to, which was amazing. And actually, we really loved doing it. So what happens, the process is really simple. They just ring you up because, of course, they couldn't see you at this time. So they just ring you up, you have a chat, you find out what the person's like, you find out what they wanted. You make a really bespoke service. It's all sustainable and lovely. And you make it and deliver it to the funeral directors. And they pay online. So it's a really slick process.
Yeah.
You haven't got months of preparation. What we do is really, really beautiful. And so with beautiful British flowers, you can imagine it looks like a garden.
Yeah.
And then we started to get a reputation of, oh my goodness, these look amazing. Because I think historically funeral flowers has got a bit of a hit and a bit of a knock, where
Yeah.
florists have used flowers that are kind of coming to the end of their life, and flowers that aren't that great, and flowers that are a little bit cheap. And I think ours obviously were the opposite of that. And it was like we were using massive amounts of delphiniums, and it just looked beautiful. And so we got a really, really good reputation. And actually, I really enjoy doing it because we find out about the person that died, you know, and it is bespoke. You know, like during COVID, there was a gentleman that had died, and he actually was a landscape gardener in his younger days, and he loved roses, and he had a garden full of roses. And his wife was explaining all these roses and so on, and all the roses she wanted to have. And I said, well, why don't we just come and cut the ones from his garden? Because if they're his and he wants those, and they were his pride and joy. And so we found ourselves with a ladder, actually in the pouring rain, picking all these roses and making something brilliant. But it really meant something to her.
Yeah.
So, yeah, honestly, I feel quite honored to do funeral flowers. And we have built a massive reputation now. And the funeral directors recommend us because that's the only way of getting into funeral flowers is you need to be referred or recommended. And we've done really well from funeral flowers.
Yeah. Especially since you weren't able to do, well, the wedding stopped. So you had flowers. Yeah. Unfortunately, you just had to move that direction. Now, the other things you do is you do a lot of education. Talk to us through a little bit about how that shift happened, because obviously, you know, COVID happened and you had to do something. Yeah. So you just started taking your expertise and sharing it with the world.
I did. Yeah. I think because my background's marketing, I thought, okay, what shall I do? I knew online quite well. I had run a digital agency before historically. So I thought, okay. So I set off last February with a seed to vase course, we called it. And it was an 8-month course of learning from March to October. And they had 2 trainings a week. And then they'd have guest speakers a month and masterclasses and all sorts. So loads and loads of content, really quite jam-packed. And we took them literally from, this is a patch, this is how you clear it, and here's some seeds, germination, right up to, this is how you cut and condition and how you use floristry to form something.
Yeah.
And that became more popular than I ever thought. We had 200 people on the first cohort last March. And actually, their journeys were extremely humbling about why they even decided to join it. So there were people in high pressure jobs, for instance, that, you know, they might have been the head of the NHS or something. And at that point was really quite. So then they thought, I'm going to have my own cutting patch. I'm going to grow my own flowers and everything in between. So of the journeys, those people, some were doing it for hobby, some that have now gone into flower farming and never ever thought they were going to do that. Yeah. Some were doing it as a community project. Some were doing it as a social enterprise. It honestly was eye-opening about, because everyone was stuck at home. It was like, well, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to grow flowers. And that's what they did. Yeah. And it was amazing. Absolutely amazing.
That's so cool. So then this 8 month, that's impressive, but it was really step by step following every single little thing. And I think the cool thing you said is that you really focused on your very specific area, so that in your zone, growing zone, so that, you know, you can show them like, this is exactly the week you should be planting and all of that. So I think that's really cool. And I think that's something we spoke about earlier is, okay, so we've done this really cool for this area. How do we expand out? That's and there's ways to do it, but it's challenging as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we can really only expand in the US currently at the moment into Washington State, Seattle, and British Columbia, because they have a similar climate to us. If you expanded the course further and it didn't matter that we did dahlias at this point, and people aren't necessarily doing dahlias at the same time, you do it more on these are dahlias or these are peonies, and it wouldn't matter when you put them in. Kind of thing. But ours was really like, right, you've got your seed. We'd sent seed boxes out and we'd go, right, you've got your seed box this week. Right, this is what we're going to plant. And we all planted together. And then, right, we're going to prune our roses. This is how we're going to prune our roses. Or we're going to make some compost. This is how we're going to make compost. Or this is our insects. And this is how we're going to deal with that. And it kind of, it was a really humbling experience. I loved it. I really loved it.
Wow, sounds really cool. All right, well, I'm going to take a quick break here, and we have 150 people joining us, Roz.
Oh, wow.
But what I want to do is, I think it's time to get some shares going for this. So I know this is great information for flower farmers around the world. We've got people from over 60 countries joining us for this event. But let's get some more. So if you guys go ahead, share the stream, and then comment in the comments there that you shared it, and we will pick one person to win a all access pass. So go ahead, share it, comment in the thread that you did share it, and we will pick someone here in probably the next 10 minutes or so to win that. So again, this is a mini pop-up giveaway, and yeah, so I know there's only 150. So again, your odds of winning are really high. So go ahead and share this. You can share it in your personal page. You can share it in a gardening group you're a part of. If you have a farm page, go ahead and share this, and we will pick someone. So, all right. So talk to us a little bit about, your team. You've talked a lot about, you do these big weddings and you bring in obviously some private contractors, but what does your core team look like on the farm?
Yeah, our core team is 10.
Okay.
Which was quite big for a flower farm in the UK. And it revolves around 5 who are growing and gardening and kind of doing the stuff, and another 5, including me, who are doing the online courses and online Q&As and the horticultural bit, I suppose. And so split 50-50 between the farm and online, but it's a team of 10, varied between, RHS 2 and 3 qualified, right up to people who've won gold medals at Chelsea. I've got one person who's won a RHS gold medal at Chelsea in peonies.
Wow.
So the team is really flexible, and it's great. And it's growing. It's anything from the 2 students from the village right up to the RHS qualified gold medal winner.
Yeah.
And you need to be fairly organized with that. We have a Google spreadsheet, and we have tasks that everybody has to do each week. And we have, so we know what everyone's doing. So today, for instance, we had building some no-dig beds today.
Yeah.
So we have our students, because it's Sunday. And they're basically putting lots of cardboard down, then putting a lot of compost down, and we'll be ready to put those dahlias in come later after the spring.
Yeah.
So the fact is that January is really quite a busy month on the farm.
Yeah.
People think, oh, you don't do very much in January. Actually, we do loads in January.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then we have a guy, a particular one of our team. He's really into nature, like in a big way.
Yeah.
He actually did an architectural degree, and then he did landscape architecture. So he's really quite into how things look and feel and nature. And we use him predominantly for things that involve nature. So we built a pond, for instance, a wild nature pond this summer.
Yeah.
And it's his kind of project, and he decides on all the plants. And so he's like head of nature, if you like.
Yeah.
Then we've got a woman who's a head of sort of propagation and seeds, and that's her kind of bag. So they've all got sort of specialist areas. But it's a good team, a really good team. And it's taken a while to get to that.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. 10 people. And it's, here's the other, obviously right now in the US, it's a very, very tight labor market. I think in December, only like almost 200,000 were hired, and like we've got open job positions. Everyone I know has open job positions. So obviously the relationship of labor right now has changed dramatically with like what we're paying, and just, even getting a call back. Like we had people apply in the fall, and at that point we said, we're not hiring right now. But because at that point we were fully staffed, but I said, once January hits, we will be rehiring. Of the 5 people we reached back out to, only 1 even responded to us. And they were, no, we got another job someplace else, which we obviously expected. But it's just that labor aspect so challenging. And then just finding quality people that are really in your mission. Because I think that's another thing, is that you don't just want to hire automatrons, which, just doing the work. As you said, director of nature, he loves that. And that's where you're letting him bloom, as it were, in that position.
Yeah, definitely. And we've got a labor shortage as a whole in the whole UK because of Brexit. We had lots and lots of Eastern Europeans. We had lots of Europeans working in Britain, which they can't now. If you talk to big producers of flowers, like, if you're with the massive tulip farms or massive Alstamira farms, their biggest problem is labor. Absolutely, biggest problem is labor. On my scale, it's not an issue, but on theirs, it definitely is. And I don't know what the answer to that is going to be. We came together. There was 10 of us who came together to try and set something up called the British Cut Flower Association. And we're looking at whether we take that forward and so on. But it's more about talking to government about, well, what are we going to do? And what are subsidies going to be? And how are we going to handle DEFRA? And the biggest problem is going to be labor, for sure.
Yeah. So that's interesting. I didn't know because of Brexit that basically it kicked all the Eastern Europeans out of. Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's too expensive for them now. It's too expensive for them to live here. It's too expensive generally.
Yeah.
So what's happening? Lots of Eastern Europeans are now working in Denmark. So, don't need to come to the UK. We had the same we had a stupid shortage of fuel where we couldn't get the fuel delivered to petrol stations. So for about 3 weeks, a couple of months ago, we were all out of fuel. Nobody could get any fuel. It was absolutely looked like you were in the 60s. And the reason was because we didn't have the drivers to deliver the fuel.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have any labor. We're back to labor problems again.
Yeah. So this spring, I was trying to get mushroom compost, and literally the wait time was 3 months because she says, I've got 29 trucks and 20 drivers, and I can't get anybody to pass a drug test.
Yeah.
So obviously that speaks to two problems we have here in the UK is our drug issue. I mean, the US, our drug issue and our labor shortage.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely a huge challenge. Now, you also have a book coming out. Talk to us a little bit about that.
On the 17th of January.
Yeah.
My book is called Seed to Vase. So it's the same name as the course. And it's about, it's some of these things you fall into, don't you?
Yeah.
This book has a little bit about growing cut flowers, of course, but is more about the journeys of people take when they grow cut flowers, what it does for them, their lives. Some of them obviously started as hobby. And it follows 25 people through all of COVID, so all of last year. It takes them from, okay, well, this is what position they were in, and this is what they did at the end. And it's just an interesting journal about how people's lives have been changed by cut flowers.
Yeah.
So what you can do to inspire people to do it and how people's lives have changed.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really cool. I'm really interested to see, there's a variety of stories in there as well.
Yeah. I just missed that last bit, Michael. So there's a bit on cut flowers and stories and humbling, and it's just a really easy paperback read. And I think it takes you right back to actually what flowers all about and why are we growing them?
Yes.
What joy can they give to somebody? And certainly when you take through a year of COVID, when everybody's isolating and they're all sitting at home, and the pressure of some of those people, like they had high up positions in the NHS, and they were really suffering. And people who lost people, and people who, it was just a terrible situation. And I think it sort of was a moment in time, shall we say, where COVID affected people, and where cut flowers was their savior in some respect.
Yeah, that's so cool. Well, let's see. We've had a ton of shares here, so I'm just going to scroll back and see if I can find one. Let's see. Let's pick Kelly Zechner. It's Zeichner. I've seen you pop up here for all of our different lives, so I really appreciate you joining us and being such an enthusiastic and sharing person, because she's repeated stuff for people. And again, so Kelly, congratulations. And make sure you reach out to our team at hello@growingfarmers.com, and we will get you all set up for that. So again, congrats on that. Now, I did want to, before we go, I wanted to talk about today's giveaway. So today's giveaway is something a little special. We're doing a give back giveaway. So it's a pretty big giveaway. It includes actually consulting time with me, which again, I do not do a lot of time because again, I have 3 businesses. I have 3 kids. So my time is very valuable. But also a bunch of our courses, a bunch of some dahlia bulbs, some cut willow sticks and some comfrey from our farm here. So basically some starts and stuff. But what it is there's a organization called Echo. And Echo is a company. Well, that's not a company. It's a nonprofit, which I'm going to go ahead and pull up here their webpage. But Echo is it's a worldwide organization that teaches third world countries regenerative farming practices. So they test seeds from all around for the best varieties for these. They then take them to those countries or develop them internally in the countries. They work with native teachers. So again, they're just teaching the teachers, and the teachers flood out through the countries and teach this. So I've been following them for a while now. I think maybe it's even a decade, because I'm just trying to think when I first came aware of them. But the giveaway, to enter our giveaway today, you have to donate just $1 to them. And then if you look at the whole description, you can then just email the receipt right to one of our email addresses, and we will enter you in the giveaway. So again, it's a hugely beneficial nonprofit. They're, again, worldwide, helping, again, people that are not as fortunate as us here in the US, and doing it in a regenerative way, which is really, really important to us. So again, that's today's giveaway, and just want folks to be aware of that. So Roz, this has been fabulous. Thank you so much.
Lovely. Really nice to meet you and talk to you. And yeah. I could talk flowers for hours.
Oh, we all can.
Yeah.
Yes. So again, thank you so much for coming on. I know people really, really appreciated it. Again, to follow you on Instagram, it's fieldgateflowers.com. Your website is fieldgateflowers.co.uk. So make sure you check out everything that you're doing over there. Again, thanks again for joining us. I really appreciate that.
Lovely to see you, Sue. Yeah, lovely, Michael. Thank you very much.
All right. You have a great rest of your day. And everyone,
you take care.
Yes. Thanks for joining us.
Bye-bye.